Hey you, watching this video, spread love.
Hey familia, today's video is sponsored by YouTube memberships. YouTube memberships allows you to partner up with your favorite YouTubers and gain access to all kinds of perks. To become a member, click the join button below. Bienvenidos and welcome back, familia. I am Leonardo and this is
Erika.
And together we are Leonerica. And like you all to greet Mustachio, he's growing in really well. As you may know, this is not just a mustache. This is a mission. We're on a mission to grow this channel to 100,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, if you've been enjoying the content here and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, we would appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. Once we reach that 100,000 subscribers, this thing is coming right off. And I honestly, to a certain degree, I can't wait either because I get food stuck in there and it's kind of uncomfortable to eat, and you know, it's just weird.
And sometimes he doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Holds up the party.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Tower of Torres podcast, the podcast that's dedicated to spreading love all around the world and also dedicated to improving your life one episode at a time. And so today we have a very special guest, but before we get to introducing her, I'd like to give a quick shout out to all of you who are members on YouTube, on YouTube and Patreon. Because of you, you actually make videos like this possible and are helping people all around the world making big changes in their lives. So thank you for your contribution. If you haven't already, please hit the join button on the lower part of your screen and become a member today and help support this channel. And also, I want to start off with a slight disclaimer. Okay, so the advice and or exercises in this video are intended to be used only in conjunction with the advice of your own personal therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, physician. So because of the difference in physical, mental, and emotional conditioning from individual to individual, we ask that your doctor be the one that makes sure that the advice or the exercises here are going to be safe or right for you. So please consult your therapists. Today's topic has been known to be a little bit of a sensitive issue with people. So if talk about the pandemic is a trigger for you in any way whatsoever, please know that that's not our intention. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. So please keep the live chat conversation on the topic and only the topic, please. So please know that we love you and respect all your opinions, but any political or conspiracy comments or anything like that will be deleted in the chat. Not that we want to shut you down, but we just want to keep everything just on topic. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us. And I want to, Leonardo, I'm not a therapist. No, I am not. I am not a therapist. My personal therapist is no. Okay, no. Okay, let's get. I don't even know what to say to that. Familia, please help me welcome the young lady that we have here today. Her name is Bianca Williams. She is a therapist. She deals with issues such as she deals with people with substance abuse and anxiety, depression, bipolar, all these other types of disorders that have to do with or that are connected with substance abuse. But today, on today's topic, we're going to talk about the anxiety and the depression that is caused by the pandemic. And so please welcome to the show, Bianca. Hi, Bianca.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure, no problem. Thank you for making the time to join us. For people who may not know who you are, could you please just give us a little bit of your background, a little bit of feedback on who you are and what you do?
Sure. Background is that I've been lucky enough to know Erika for how many years now? Don't even know.
About 12, roughly. We were like 14, 15. So we're 27 now. So roughly.
Easy. So, lucky enough to know Erika for so long. So we started out getting to know each other through the lovely sport of soccer. So I started out playing soccer at a very young age. And then at first I was like, oh, I'm just going to play as a sport, until I realized, wait a second, I am not doing anything else with my life. So I might as well just continue trying to play for longer. And then kind of dealt with some family issues like towards the end of high school, and then I kind of got me thinking, I gotta just quit soccer. Soccer is like just a sport. I really got to focus on school. I'm dealing with all these family stuff, such as like parents' divorce, brothers starting substances, all this stuff going on in my family life. I shouldn't be just very selfish focusing on a sport. until shaking already. Gosh, therapist makes me nervous too, right, guys?
Yeah.
Then after a soccer game, a coach came up to me from Hope University, and I was not interested in playing college sports at all anymore. I was like, I'm just gonna probably go to a community college, go the more like basic route, save as much money as I can, until this coach said, come play, you know, you can probably get some kind of scholarship. And so I said, maybe this is God telling me I can keep playing my sport and get an education. And, yes. And for me, I did not have faith at all in my life. I did not have family members that took me to church. We did not have God in our life. It was just very much like is there God? Is there not God? What the heck is that thing? People are praying to. I don't know what that is. And so just me being this little 18-year-old, I thought I can go to school that's not that far from home. I could play soccer and maybe I can study psychology. And then it come to find out that the school that I was going to actually specialized in psychology and actually had a really good grad program connected to it for marriage and family therapy, that I thought maybe I could do that if I can actually go to school and finish it. And for me, I was always the type of person that school did not come easy for me at all. It was like barely lucky if I get like maybe like a 2.5 or something like that. So for me, going to a smaller university, having it faith-based really pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me grow like as a human. Oh, sorry, that was my dog. As a human and then just as a believer. And then very fortunately enough, after finishing undergrad, I went through, oh, she's really mad.
It's real life stuff.
Real life stuff, guys. There's some movers outside, so I think she's confused on what's going on. But so I got lucky enough to been given a grad position to go to grad school and be able to coach after playing soccer there for 4 years. And that was beautiful. I felt so unbelievably blessed. And then another blessing that came from maybe God providing or me maybe just utilizing the tools that he had been given to me. So after all that, I was able to go to grad school, same school that really literally took me out of where I was in the trenches, pretty much like a high school kid thinking I'm not going to go to a university. I'm going to go to a freaking 2-year school, which is fine. It's great, but that's just going to be my route. And I graduated and I was a very young graduate and I'm still a super young therapist, but that was what led me to now be able to do what I think God wants me to do. And what I want to do is help people who struggle with substance abuse and other co-occurring mental health issues. And it's awesome.
That's great.
Oh,
So
nice.
you're not just a family therapist, you are your family's therapist now. Right?
Oh God, they always do. But I'm like, no. You guys need your own therapist. I have my own therapist.
That's awesome. All right, so we're gonna open up the questions for people watching us. So if you have any questions pertaining anxiety or depression or substance abuse, you can make your questions. All we ask is that you add, because there's a lot of conversations that are happening in the live chat. So if you want your question answered, put 4 question marks before your question and then 4 question marks after your question, so that I can easily see them as questions and not just you all answering each other's comments, please. And while you all select your questions, I just wanted to ask Bianca, maybe we can get started with this. When it comes to substance abuse, when does substance use, like recreational, like, drinking, when does that become substance abuse? At what point does it become abuse?
So according to the DSM-5, which is the book that we use to diagnose people, and I'm like sensitive about it because I do believe it's just a book of labels. It kind of talks about a few different things that you have to like check marks and fit these boxes. So some of them it's kind of individually based, but depending on, for instance, co-occurring disorders. So let's say you have like anxiety, depression, and you're utilizing alcohol or drugs for your moods or to cope. And then that turns into like an everyday thing for a certain amount of time for like 2 weeks to a month and it's going on for a long time and no space between it, that would turn into most likely a substance use disorder. But then,
oh wow.
well, I guess it just depends on each person. But
Okay.
yeah, the book would likely say depending on how much the use is and how much frequency, so the time.
Okay. And then well, today's topic specifically, we wanted to talk about how the pandemic specifically has affected people's mental and emotional well-being. For I could only speak for like in my household, right? When the whole thing started, watching the news was a big thing that just threw people into confusion, right? Especially seeing so many people pick up toilet paper. What the connection is, we still don't know. But how does like our environment affect our emotions and our attitude towards something like what's going on with the pandemic?
I think for me, I think environment is such a big thing about mental and truly about mental health. So I think about, no offense to my family if family members are watching this, but truly, like, let's say if I were to live in the house that I had been traumatized in during this pandemic, it would be so much more difficult for me to cope with it rather than me living in my own apartment right now that I can have my own space and have my own boundaries. So that, I think your environment is such a big deal. And I love how you brought up the toilet paper thing, because I think everybody was so confused as to like, oh my God, why is everybody in line? And then they would like shame and point fingers like, why is all these people going to the store and getting all these loads of toilet paper and all that stuff, until a group of therapists literally at work came together and were like, wait a second, it might be probably around the people whose environment they never really had enough of things. So they're literally like preparing for chaos, because we don't even know what the heck we don't know anything. There's no answer. And I think that is what anxiety's like biggest annoyance is not having like one specific answer. So it's like people are just doing what they think is right.
Yeah, and we were getting multiple answers from multiple sources. So we would watch the news. We'd be on Facebook. You know, people on Instagram with memes, obviously, because people just making fun of stuff. Our friends, we had divisions even amongst family members. With some people would just dismissed it, and then others were taking it far more serious, and it created a different division altogether.
All around. Right? So then you had to respect other people's boundaries, and then people might not respect yours. So it was a lot. And truly with the pandemic, to me, it still feels like this. There's the big, huge pandemic. So there's like an umbrella of that health issue. But then there's also like these little traumas that are going on too, such as, well, they're not little at all, but such as like the BLM movement and, I don't know, people not wanting to be vaccinated and other people wanting to be vaccinated. So there's like all these little like divisions of police lives matter and all this stuff that's adding even more trauma and even more anxiety and depression to the already pandemic depression and anxiety.
So what would be 3 things that you would suggest people do to sort of ease that confusion or that internal chaos that occurred through all this? Like, what are 3 things that we could do?
What I think, and I think this is something that I often talk to my clients about, which they might be a little bit different because they are currently in the process of detoxing and working through an addiction, plus their anxiety, their depression, and other co-occurring disorders. But what I think about is make sure 3 things would be probably rest is a huge thing. Make sure you're sleeping well, and then maybe not too much sleep. Too much sleep could probably be like the first sign that you're depressed and you're sleeping too much. But you need to sleep at like at least 7 to 8 hours. Another thing is drinking water and eating right, eating healthy, because a lot of times people, I don't mean healthy as like I'm totally anti-diet culture. I don't mean healthy like you have to go eat salads every freaking day. No, live your life, but you should not eating McDonald's every single day, fast food every single day, because that is going to probably add on to anxiety and depression.
Okay.
And the third thing, I think this is really important, is making sure at least like 3 people in your life are healthy people and they respect your boundaries over what you're doing to protect your mental health during this time. Because if it's going to be like associating yourself with people who totally are not respecting you, that's not going to help, I don't think.
Yeah. Oh, those are great. So sleeping well, eating well, and surrounding yourself with people who are positive and supportive to your well-being.
And if you can't surround yourself, because I know I see that comment that says separation, but at least like this, I love Zoom, although some people don't, it's still, you can connect in a way that you feel supported, or calling your friends or FaceTime, stuff like that, and at least respecting each other's space in that way.
Yeah.
Which are really fortunate to have that now.
Yeah. With things like I think it was Ruslan who was on here a couple of weeks ago. He had mentioned that technology specifically just completely took us to another level. We were depending on things like now virtual appointments with doctors and virtual appointments with dentists, and it just took it to a whole different level. And Kathy here says, but the pandemic separated people from each other. Wouldn't that cause additional stress to deal with the anxiety on their own?
What do you think?
If I could just really quickly comment on something, like I dealt with my anxiety growing up on my own. For me, having my mom take me to a therapist was just out of the question when I was a kid. It was just financially was one reason. The other reason, like, well, Mexican parents are like, we don't need that. Like, that's silly. Like, we're fine. You just need to eat a taco and you're fine. Right? And that's a joke, by the way. Okay, that's a joke. But what are some ways that someone could help sort of deal with their anxiety on their own? Of course, I always would recommend that you go see a therapist, right? But what are some things, like, for example, journaling helped me a lot. But what are some things that you suggest that people do if, for example, a therapist is not an option for them? Maybe they can't.
Truly, that's really the case for a lot of people, and I see that a lot on social media where therapists are like, go to therapy, but a lot of people don't have that privilege. It's expensive. They don't have insurance, all this stuff. So if you can't go to therapy, I recommend, they have beautiful, this sounds a little bit like it's like not enough, but they have wonderful mental health apps that would help with therapy. So like, well, my phone, I have Calm. Another one would be which one's this? My Strengths. There's another mental health, I think it's called What's Up, and there's different there's psychoeducation on there, there's journaling, because I know a lot of people, for journaling, there she goes again, journaling is not their first thought or something that they want to do. It kind of takes practice sometimes, and maybe it's not for you, that's okay. But mental health apps, definitely, I'm a big supporter of social media, but I've found so many wonderful resources with therapists on social media, and maybe if there's a way we could like link them on here, that would be cool, because they have wonderful online resources. But then with gaining resources from social media, it's really important that you just focus on setting healthy boundaries so that you're not constantly just like wanting to learn all that you can to basically take away your anxiety and your depression, because with that, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to learn how to tolerate it, and then eventually it will decrease that way. If that makes sense.
Well, then now you bring up an interesting a door here. What are some misconceptions about anxiety that people may have?
One of the biggest ones I've noticed, and I used to be a total person that would say this, I would often go, help me get rid of my anxiety. I want to get rid of my anxiety. I don't want to feel it. Just get rid of it. What's like the best way to get rid of your anxiety? And I think that is the biggest misconception, because I often share this with clients, is if you want to not have anxiety, unfortunately, would mean that you're dead, because anxiety is not fully unhealthy. It's what our body kind of needs to get us going and to like keep us alive and to keep us sane and to keep us working and stuff like that.
And safe, right? Because I mean, essentially, what happens is it's a trigger. And I'm not a specialist in this, but it served once as a trigger to keep us safe. Like we see a snake and we respond to it, and it's a fight or flight type of deal, right? What I've noticed about myself is that sometimes when I was having my anxiety attacks, or when I was going through my depression, or mostly my anxiousness, was that I felt like I was on fight or flight mode, but then it intensified because I was neither fighting nor flying. So
you were freezing. That's what it's called.
Freezing.
Yeah. So one of the things, that's such a good point, is basically for anxiety, when you have panic attacks. So anxiety is normal. Probably like a degree would be like normal anxiety here, and then it's like this normal anxiety here, and then panic attack is like up here, right? And so self-disclosure, I share this, and maybe we can start another question. Maybe what topic might be of medication, but I actually take medication for depression. And so I had changed up one of the doses, and in the process of changing it, due to maybe I wasn't sleeping right the night before, I had a little bit of a nightmare. The following day, I had a panic attack. So with panic attacks, the only thing that you really need to do is make sure one is safe, and two, you just have to focus on your breathing. So that's the same thing with anxiety, is you practice breathing, and then you really just focus on grounding exercises. So that would be like, I have my little like crystal with like, or something like a rock, or any kind of like phone fidget thing to hold and practice your breathing. And then eventually you'll come back down to like a calm state. And if you don't, then that would probably mean you might like most likely have a little bit of like a panic disorder, but it's not anything that is life-threatening, and you can totally on that.
Oh, excellent. And then I do want to touch on things like that, like anchors, things that people do, like they carry bracelets, or I notice one thing about Erika, when she's a little bit anxious, she tends to go for her necklace.
Yes.
And she'll rub it. And that's how I know.
Sometimes he catches it before I do, and
Yeah.
sometimes he knows that I'm having an anxiety moment, or I'm anxious about something, and sometimes I'm just self-conscious. I don't even realize that I'm anxious. Sometimes for me, sometimes I'm like anxious, and I'm like, wait, what am I anxious about? And then I start like figuring out what triggered me, and I'm like, okay, well, was it this? Was it that? I'm like, okay, now I'm overthinking. Now I'm anxious about the overthinking.
And then you have to stop yourself, because then you'll get into these thought loops. You're like, what did I do wrong? So really the best thing to do if you get into those things, because that's totally a normal anxiety situation, is recognize that, one, you're judging yourself. You're like, oh my God, I'm probably a horrible person because I have anxiety. No, that's not going to help you. So you go, okay, let's breathe. I'm having anxiety. I feel my necklace. I'm safe. What was I doing before this? This is mindfulness questions, rather than like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're the worst person ever. You're not being non-judgmental. Yeah. So another big anxiety treatment that's wonderful is mindfulness activities. But again, I think that is a very privileged thing, because not a lot of people have like the community support and like any support. So if you go to therapy and you have no community support or no financial support, and then the therapist says you should practice mindfulness skills.
Yeah.
But if any anxiety daily, and you do have the support of community or whatnot, mindfulness skills like non-judgment towards yourself is great.
Yeah, we have a Discord group server where people can go to and talk to one another, and we'll add the link in just a second here. But if anybody's dealing with anything, you're requesting, you're in need of prayer, or want to offer prayer, or just want to have a conversation with someone and vent, we have people that are available. We have a prayer support team that is available almost 24/7, because they're all over the world. We have people in Germany, in Scotland, in the UK, and here in the States, ready to help you. So Roxana here says that she was taught that a good Christian doesn't need a therapist because if you have Christ, it is enough. And wants to know what do you think about that statement?
I've heard it so much, and going to a Christian school that specialized in psychology, I loved because I got the privilege of learning from Christian psychologists that I think I asked that question similar. And she said, you can have a therapist and you can have Jesus too. I was like, the truth. Because I'm not sure, I don't remember his name, sadly, but I bring this up a lot to clients who are very spiritual, and I think religion and having a safe space, having beliefs is wonderful for mental health, but I don't believe that mental illness, and if, let's say, your mental health is so detrimental that you cannot even function during the day, I believe that God, as a Christian therapist myself, created people like me so that we can help out in that way. And it's totally up to the people in front of you. Like, let's say you are going to therapy and your therapist says something like, here, you need to, or here's an option for you, and you don't want to do it due to your Christianity or your beliefs, that's totally okay. So it's very much like autonomous. That's how therapy works. And I think that's definitely in relation to Christianity.
Yeah. Good. Thank you so much for answering that.
Thank you.
I hope that clears it up for you, Roxana. Lisa says that panic attacks feel like heart attacks, and that's true. A lot of us who have experienced the panic attack, it very much feels that way. For me, it's the tightness, the tingling of the hands, tingling of the face, the tension, the hard breathing. You panic, even you're in the middle of a panic attack and you start panicking about your panic attack, which prolongs it, right? But I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions about panic attacks is that you're gonna die from one.
You're gonna die, exactly.
Right? Oh no.
So can you tell us the difference? Like, how can we tell the difference between a panic attack and a heart attack?
That's kind of difficult. So mental health and physical health go hand in hand always. So let's say you have not gone to the doctor in years and you're struggling with these mental health issues. If you go to a therapist, a decent therapist, a good therapist would recommend you first go to a physical doctor to rule out these physical conditions, make sure that nothing's going on, and then come back and work with me. So like, let's say you ruled out all conditions. You are not likely going to have a heart attack if you don't have any other health issues going on. So then likely you're dealing with panic symptoms. And then if those panic symptoms are constant throughout the day, daily, then likely something is a little bit off within your nervous system, or maybe chemical imbalance in your brain. Truthfully, I think that's actually why some people start getting on SSRIs, as a type of antidepressant medication, and then that kind of balances out their nervous system. But if you start feeling panic attack symptoms, what I recommend always remind yourself, I am safe. I am not going to die. Practice breathing. One thing that I love is getting a giant ice cold water and drinking the water slowly. And then another thing, if you cannot even get water down, is holding an ice cube and just squeezing it. And feeling any cold type of feel. So I think the last time that had happened to me, I simply just laid on the tile floor. And then you just practice your breathing, and then eventually you'll go down to a calmer state. That following day, you might feel really off. Your whole body kind of feels a little bit, wait a second, did I run a marathon yesterday or get hit by a car? I'm not sure. It's probably in relation to how your body was reacting in
protecting mode.
Yeah, protection mode. But then in reality, if you can practice breathing exercises daily, then eventually your body will realize you're actually not in danger, and then you probably won't have those panic attacks anymore.
That's great. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Okay, let's see. Brenda D says, when I'm having a PTSD attack, I sometimes feel like I'm watching another person acting this way.
Yeah, that's so common. It sounds like probably like a kind of disassociation
Yeah.
where when you're here, your mind or your body's here, but your mind is gone.
Yeah.
That is definitely like your body and your mind trying to again protect you. So it's always our bodies trying to protect us, but a lot of times we're not in danger, right? So like if PTSD attack comes up, it's probably because something triggered it, right? So same thing with the PTSD attack. You have to practice I'm safe, practice breathing, and if it does not get any better, then we would recommend maybe going to like a specialist for PTSD, which one form of therapies that would help with that is called EMDR. And it's like a specific eye movement thing where I don't know too much about it because I haven't done training on it, but it helps you reprocess the memory so that when it comes back to your brain, it's not as, I guess, feeling like it's life-threatening.
Well, with cases like PTSD, from things that I've read, there's a thing about being sucked, not just remembering something, but being sucked into the memory to the point where you're not able to tell the difference between what's real or what's not, or like you're kind of re-experiencing everything that has to do with that experience. Is that right?
Yeah, it could be. So like, for instance, this would be like an example of clients that I'm working with right now who are maybe like in their late 20s are re-experiencing experiences that happened when they were like 15, when they were 10, and it's causing them major panic attacks, major, I guess, cravings, wanting to leave, stuff like that, which makes me realize, okay, I understand why you've been using for so long, because the substances you were using totally took away those memories and those horrible events that actually really happened. But if you want to move forward, then you probably can't stay stuck using, because then you're just always going to feel like you're trapped back there.
Okay, so if I understood you correctly, you're saying that when someone who is, for example, like you explained, the late 20s, they experienced something that when they were in their early teens, they're reliving it and they're using substances to sort of escape or cope with it. And to a certain degree, it seems like a fix, because in the moment they're not really feeling it, but that just grounds them deeper into it connects them deeper into that memory.
Sometimes, or it's simply, to me, I think it just doesn't do anything productive at all. So it just gets them stuck. So for instance, someone who had been using marijuana for years on end and had a trauma when they were maybe 15, but they're 30 now, would still probably act maybe around age 15 because they never really worked through that trauma. But if we go to sometimes like the therapy that I do, which is just talk therapy, I say just talk therapy, but I use different kinds of modes of therapy in my therapy, which is like DBT, CBT. I can go, and it probably doesn't make sense
to anyone who doesn't know the acronyms. Yeah.
But if regular therapy doesnuld help you, and you feel like after like so long you've been working with this therapist, the PTSD is just not getting better, then we would probably recommend going to like a specialist for PTSD to help you basically like reprogram the memories in a specific way.
Reprogram, you say?
Kind of like a computer, but not really.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, I studied NLP, and I'm not sure how you feel about NLP specifically, but I even went so far as to,
I don't even know what NLP is.
Oh, so NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming, which is it's a method that helps you understand how like your emotions and your thoughts work together, or to either work against you or work for you. People like Tony Robbins, I learned it from him. So I started reading Tony Robbins when I was dealing with my anxiety, and then he introduced NLP, like eye access and cues and things like that. And then I looked further into it. But they call it a pattern, a swish pattern, or not a swish pattern, a pattern, where someone who suffered from trauma, for example, they see themselves in the memory, and what NLP trains people to do is to separate themselves from the images that they're making. So see the images. Can we lower the screen, turn the volume down, turn up make it black and white, and mess with how you're remembering the event so that it has less effect on you. But one of the things that they practice is that saying, okay, so imagine that you're watching that memory on a screen in a theater and you're sitting front row, and see how you feel. And then it says, okay, now rewind it, run it backwards. Now imagine that you're sitting in the row behind yourself, and now you're watching yourself watch the screen and see how you are reacting to it and see how it feels from this point of view. And so you go back until eventually you're so disassociated from the feeling that it no longer has that same effect on you. And it's just something like things like that. Like, so there's a lot of.
It sounds very similar to EMDR. So, but like in a different way, those are using different interventions, but it's definitely doing like the same thing for you to help basically separate yourself from the memory and then move forward.
Yeah. That's wonderful. It's great that we could do that with our minds. Katie Donovan says, my anxiety started about 2 months ago. 3 weeks ago was the absolute worst. Advice for what to do when I can feel the tightness in my chest start and all the negative thoughts start. So what advice would you have for her when the tightness begins and she starts feeling the negative thoughts begin?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking the negative thoughts are part of the problem, because think about how you're judging yourself in that whole thing. So I often think about anxiety treatment as you have to practice non-judgment. So when you all of a sudden feel your chest starting to hurt, really notice how your thoughts are affecting your feelings. So like, for instance, oh my gosh, I'm horrible, I'm going to have a panic attack, I'm the worst person ever. That's not going to help you when you're dealing with it. Ultimately, you can go, okay, let me breathe. And then eventually, if you can give yourself, I guess, not positive reinforcement, but notice the negative thoughts and not be judgmental. Like, for instance, oh my gosh, my thoughts are telling me to go jump off a cliff. I'm crazy. No, my brain is trying to protect me. I am not crazy. That's just something irrational my brain is telling me to do. Let me focus on my breathing, and I'm going to continue drinking my water. I'm going to continue doing what I was doing in the first place. And then eventually, if you're practicing mindfulness in that way, hopefully the anxiety will decrease.
What I think I heard you say was bring yourself to a neutral position, right? So don't let the negativity or the negative thoughts carry you away. Bring yourself to a neutral position mentally first. And then physically know that you're okay, right? And being present.
Yes. A lot of times, I think it goes back to what I shared about the misconceptions of anxiety, is like we try to do things to get rid of it. But if we constantly are trying to do things to get rid of it, then we'll never be able to like tolerate any form of discomfort. So like, for instance, maybe Katie, maybe 2 months ago, the anxiety from maybe kids starting school in a pandemic that's still going on, that's real, right? She's fearful. Maybe that's not really what's going on, but that is probably her caring about the situation. And so I often remind people that anxiety, if it's not like a clinical condition, anxiety is really helpful for us because it tells us, and it kind of reminds us in a way what our values are and what we love and what we care about.
And you use this phrase several times already. You said it's trying to protect you. So things like anxiety or things like anger, all these feelings, they happen for a reason, right? It's our bodies, or it's our body trying to tell us to be aware of something, that something is happening that could potentially be dangerous or life-threatening. And when I hear you say like breathe, and maybe you could tell us how breathing helps, like why breathing is important, but to centering ourselves and to realizing, okay, being mindful, as you said, being aware of our surroundings, say, am I an immediate threat now, or is my brain exaggerating a thought and making this much bigger than it needs to be, right?
Yes, which it usually tends to be that way, especially during this time where there's like so much uncertainty. All of our brains, I think, tend to be like on overdrive. And so we're like, oh my gosh, there's threats everywhere. So I think this is like a lame little quote. I don't know who came up with it, but your breath is your brain's remote control. So if you could think about it in that way, it's like if you can focus on your breathing, then chances are you'll be more calm. Because in a panic attack or like in an anxiety attack, our breathing without even noticing usually is like all over the place. Yes, it's
really shallow.
Yeah, and then we can't really think rationally like that. And so that's what kind of usually. And then if you're always constantly trying to get rid of it, you'll never be able to tolerate just any form of anxiety.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when we're breathing that way, we're not getting enough oxygen. So breathing and getting oxygen to the right parts of our body is helpful.
Yeah, and then another thing I think about is how anxious I was literally before starting this live.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm not that anxious anymore because I was able to remind myself that I was anxious because I really care about what I'm talking about, and so it's going to push me to do hopefully like an okay job.
No, you're doing great. I appreciate that. If you all are getting some value out of this, can you please let us know in the live chat and also hit that like button? It'll help us out a lot. And
love on that like button.
Love on that like button. We have a comment here. It says, when I'm having an episode, I get really quiet. I keep calm, but I use the method of naming things I can see, hear, feel, smell, or taste. Basically, get in touch with my surroundings. That always helps me.
That's beautiful. That's a great grounding activity. So it's basically like if you're in the middle of anxiety or panic attack, basically using all your senses and naming things will hopefully get you back to the present moment. So you're not in the future, you're not in the past. You're just right here.
Cool. Yeah. Love that. Let's see. Let's see if there's okay. So you're getting some love here. Roxana says you're doing awesome. Let's see. Oh, and then Jackie here is confirming.
Thank you, Jackie.
Kobe says, I've learned OCD attacks. Would you value them?
Yes.
Would you value the most? What is an OCD attack?
So I actually have OCD. So welcome to the club.
Okay.
It truly is actually the most, I truly think it's very difficult to deal with, more than what society kind of shares about it. It's like, oh, you're clean. You have a wonderfully clean house and you're organized. And that's definitely not what OCD is. It's more so like it could be very detrimental. You're overthinking such horrific things that aren't even real, right? So one OCD value would be like, let me think of this. This is actually something that would happen in an OCD attack would be, I am afraid that I am going to harm children, because OCD usually attacks what you value the most. So let's say I adore children. I value working with children. I value just loving on children. So if I believed my OCD, then I would never be around children, right? So what this thank you, Kobe, is that OCD is attacking what you value, and if you let OCD basically win, then you will never do what you love, right? So I usually try to share that you're in the driver's seat and your mental illness or OCD or anxiety, depression, whatever, is in the passenger seat. They're sitting there, they're talking all this crap, and they're like, you can't do it. You better drive off a cliff. You better just go home because you suck. You're driving. Follow your values.
Yeah. It's better that you drive.
It's better that you drive. We take control of the driving.
Let's see. So Jackie here, all right, is she walks every day, and every time that we're on the live chat, she's like, I just went on a walk this morning, and we're like, well, we suck because we don't walk, right?
We don't walk.
And so lately, she's been the inspiration for our morning walk, right? She's been our inspiration for our morning walk, and I do feel different. Like I do feel like my mind is a little bit more clear. I do feel like I'm ready, a little bit more ready to take on the day. So, you know, she's saying that before she started walking, my brain never stopped. It never shut up. And I guess this is a way to kind of quiet down.
It brings us like, it centers ourselves to like a calmness, you know.
Think about that's beautiful. And that's like such a great coping skill. And then I want to challenge you guys, if you get maybe like me, like obsessive, where you feel like, oh my gosh, this used to be me a few years ago, if I don't do my walk tomorrow, I am going to have the worst day ever, right? And that's not necessarily true. So like one day you fall asleep and you don't go on your walk, then your brain's going to go, oh, you're a piece of crap, on your walk, whatever. You got to challenge yourself and go, that's okay. I wanted to sleep in. I was tired. Tomorrow I'll go back to it. And I have other coping skills. It doesn't need to be that one little thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings up another case. But before I get to that, I just want to mention Crystal Malone's, shout out to Crystal. She says, not a question, but a comment. Bianca, you're amazing. Your posts help me daily and remind me it's okay not to be okay all the time.
That's my sister, Bianca, if you remember.
I know. I love Crystal. Crystal, thank you so much because your posts actually helped me so much. And I feel truly closer to God because of your posts. So thank you so much.
Awesome. See how that works? It's a cycle. Because love is a circle. Okay, so what you mentioned right now is, I forgot how you worded it. Sorry, but I'm gonna paraphrase, or actually I'll just get to it. There seems to be a difference between dealing with yourself emotionally speaking. So like all the negative thinking, you suck, you're never going to be anything. Why do you even try? Right. And then there's a practical side. Right. Mm-hmm. So I noticed that there are certain times where I need my emotional side to be caressed, and to be like, it's okay. You can lay in bed for a little bit longer. You don't have to make a video today. It's going to be fine. But then the practical, I also sometimes I need the practical, which is like, dude, snap out of it. Get up. What are you doing? Yeah. And sometimes we need one, sometimes we need the other. Why? Why? Why?
Humans in general, we're just like we're just all
human.
So,
I'm like I judge myself, like I'm like the biggest person that judges myself on a daily.
Most people are, and that's like, so I think we need both, because if you're just constant, but then if you realize think about, everybody came from a system, right? So I love that I'm a marriage and family therapist, because I don't just look at the one person as just you. I know you came from a different background, you have family, all that stuff. So then you really have to think about whose voice are you hearing, and was it helpful? Because a lot of times I hear that a lot. I work more with males right now, so I hear that a lot with men who came from a really, really authoritarian background, maybe, where the dad was like super really like military force, and and mom was never loving, so they can't do anything they feel without shitting on themselves, basically. So it's like, someone has to tell me to leave off, and that is not helpful.
Yeah, it's not helpful. Familia, sorry for the S bomb, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's all right. It's all right. It's okay.
I'm so sorry. My work tends to get me into cussing.
Strike one. No, just kidding.
We will still love you. It's okay.
Yeah, we'll still love you, but it's okay. So,
it happens.
Cool. So, your background is a lot. It was really important. I noticed that too. Like with a lot of males, we're not taught to feel what we're feeling. No. I thankfully I grew up mostly with women. My mom, my aunt. I grew up around my uncles, but my uncles are of the sensitive type. And so dealing with things like being open about how I feel it came easy to me. But for some men, it's very challenging, because we've been told that if we talk about our emotions, we're girly, we use more harsher words, but that what are you, a girl, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so what's something that we can do to, I don't know, begin to open up and feel like we're safe to let it be okay to feel what we're feeling? I
think just probably start by practicing. I always start with this, practicing non-judgment towards yourself. Is that if you came from a background that never shared about your emotions, which is me, is I came from a Persian family that is like, eat something. What are you talking about? You feel bad. What is that? So
eat something.
Non-judgment, and then recognize who you're surrounding yourself with, maybe outside of maybe a system that isn't very much like open about their emotions, like how I was very close with Erica, and Erica's family really helped me maybe identify what I really wanted. Thank you guys so much for a family of my own, because they were so loving and so caring, and that helped me kind of.
Oh, shout out to the Ayala family for spreading love.
Yes.
I know. Thank you.
Oh, that's great.
They do. They look at her as their adopted daughter.
Adopted
My
daughter.
dad would always say that she was like an adopted daughter all the time. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. See, like things like this, like my husband can't cry.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That might be maybe like I'd hate to use this word because I see it a lot online, but maybe like a response to a particular trauma in his past. Like, for instance, that is definitely common in my husband too. In the beginning, it was very much like, I don't cry if I'm stressed. I will go to my room and I will be by myself and kind of like think about it, and then I'll be good when I'm more rational. But it could be probably, I mean, if he doesn't see a problem with it, that's okay. But I think in reality, as human beings, crying is like the best self-care for anxiety, depression, all kinds of things, because it's like the most natural form of stress relief. And so your body is truly thanking you after you cry, but not if you're doing it constantly all day long, every day.
You're just like in the supermarket.
Yeah.
The own thing when Brenda said my husband can't cry or doesn't cry. I see that a lot in men.
Yeah.
It seems like men can't be. I know you were just saying, like you said, I hear you said little girl when you're talking about like your family and stuff. I just think it's that's unfortunate that I feel like a lot of men, they hide their emotions and their feelings because it's looked, I don't know, like weak. You know,
it's
for
a
a
sign of
man
weakness
to show emotion, and it makes me sad, to be honest, because we could help out.
Because so I think totally as like a, hopefully as a world, we're changing that. I think where it's like men are.
So we're not supposed to feel any emotion, right? We're not supposed to feel any kind of emotion. But then we hold it in, and then we're angry, right? And that's an emotion? So are we over emotional?
Yes. Usually what I tell or I try to share and teach about is where? I don't see him. I don't see that.
He said hello.
Oh,
proceed.
That's okay.
Right here.
Oh, hi. But where was I going? I don't remember. Do you guys
about crying and exploding.
Oh, yes. I usually teach about the Anger Iceberg. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but basically, if you can imagine like an iceberg and the tip of it shows anger, and then underneath the surface is truly just a lot of other feelings like sadness, feeling used, worthless, feeling not being able to express yourself at all. So everybody sees this angry guy, but in reality, you need love. Like you need, that's it.
Yeah, just like anything else. You know, so touching on this just lightly, because I don't want to make it a thing and make it into like a sex war or a gender war, or battle of the sexes. But a lot of times we hear like, okay, so like it's really challenging to be a woman, and it is, and it most likely, I mean, most certainly is, right? I'm not a woman, but I can see it. I saw the abuse in my family. I saw what my mom went through. It cannot be easy to be under that much pressure. But also, you know, being a man, we deal with different types of pressure, right? So like socially speaking, I could not, if for example, like I don't drink at all, right? I don't drink. And so being invited to things sometimes is difficult for people because they go, well, let's not invite him because he doesn't drink anyway. So how's he going to have fun? It's like, I know how to have fun without drinking, you know, but you can invite me to these places. I do like soccer games. You know, you can invite me. It's not a beer fest. It's not a beer fest. It is a soccer game. You can drink. I'm okay. I won't judge you. Right. But sometimes we're not able to really bond with each other unless it's around drinking. But anyway, the pressure of having to support our family, the pressure of being the head of the house, the pressures of even having, like, for example, I have a teen daughter now, and it's a daughter, so I should sometimes certain things I can't relate to her on certain things. So not knowing if she's hiding things or not knowing if she's troubled or anything like that. And the pressure of that. Now my mother is been ill, on and off, things like that. Like, so like, there's like all these pressures, and we're not we're not able or allowed to somehow like tell someone and say, hey, you know, I'm struggling here, because it's a sign of, because it would be a sign of weakness. I don't know if there's a question here, but but
because, well, no, that shows you, because a lot of pressure on you to feel like you need to take care of everybody else. So I think maybe that's what men feel like. They're like, I'm the head of the household, I need to take care of everybody. But you can never take care of everybody else when you're not taking care of you, right? And then especially too, I think maybe with your daughter, like as being a teen, you can go, you know what, whatever, insert her name, right? You know, I'm your dad, right? I'll love you forever, but there's some things that I just can't relate to. But here are some wonderful people, and like have like maybe some people that you can talk to, a therapist if you can. And then these people that do relate to you, but I'm going to be here for you for all these other ways. And like, and you'll be there for her, and same with your mom, but then you also need support for yourself.
Right. And you know something, and I noticed that that's kind of the sort of like the leading factor, well, at least from what I can observe is that Lorena Ayala's on here too. Is that a lot of men don't know how to deal with all that? So drinking is a big thing, right? So like substance abuse is a big thing, because I don't know what to do with this. I can't talk to anyone, so I'm going to at least like numb it somehow, right?
Numbing is like a huge thing. It's like, if I just drink this away, it'll go away, but it doesn't usually go away.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it will. Okay. So is there anything that you recommend, like for people that are like, for maybe like a man who's under all that pressure, doesn't have a therapist? I mean, obviously you would recommend going to see a therapist, but who may be dealing with things like that?
Depending, I usually think about let's say if hopefully this person has a job, like if they have a job, reach out to wherever you work and see if there's support in mental health care. That's awesome. If not, then really, really focusing on maybe building like a little community of people that you can lean on, while also taking care of yourself, and maybe going on your daily walks, and focusing on your nutrition, your rest, your me time, like everything like that, right? But just the support is really important. Like not everybody has that support. So then it falls back on, what are you supposed to do when you don't have support? And so what I recommend there is your community support. I hope, like if you have like a internet or social media or a phone even, there is text groups and like support groups that are completely confidential. Yeah. And so actually not too long ago, I'll self-disclose, is I lost a client that I worked with for a long time to death. Unfortunately, I was super sad about it, and I still pray for her family. But I reached out to this text service that I think the number might be 711711, and it's a private, confidential counselor that can talk to you about whatever you're dealing with, and then they can give you resources that could be free or could be whatever you can manage.
And that is kind of challenging, because most men aren't even we don't even get there to that point where we're actually saying, hey, I need help, right? So now we have the male perspective, right? So what advice would you have for, say, like the spouse, or you know, someone who may be dealing with that to the point where, unfortunately, like for my mom, it got violent, you know. But you know, and I know that there are a lot of women that live in that situation where they either feel like they have to stay, or they feel like they can change them, or who make excuses like, oh, well, he's just tired, or he's just, you know, like what advice would you be able to offer them to sort of cope with that, or help, or get them help?
Especially when family starts becoming violent, right? So like I often share how violence in relationships is very similar to a substance abuse disorder. So like imagine somebody goes and relapses on their drug of choice, right? And then they overdose and they literally were dead. And then they come back the next day and they're like, it wasn't that bad. It's very similar to, like, let's say a wife who got beat by their husband and then goes to work the next day and has black eyes, and then they go, well, he was just having a bad day. And it repeats itself over and over again until everybody in the family is struggling because that one person or those two people can't deal with their addiction, which is themselves, or maybe their addiction to avoiding their problems. So what I think is really, really setting hard boundaries, even though it's difficult. It's like I said, I often use this quote is, you can never pour from an empty cup. So how can you take care of other people in your family when other people are not taking care of themselves? Like another example, I have a coworker actually who has a wife who has, actually she's not even his wife, who claims that she has some sort of cancer, but she does not want to care for herself. She does not want to go through any treatment. She does not want help. And so my coworker is very much invested in, I got to take care of her. I got to care for her. I'm going to bathe her. I'm going to do this. But if she doesn't want to help herself in gaining help, going to get meds, going to whatever she can do, then he's really kind of losing himself too.
I'll probably want to get back to that. But before we do, Crystal says, is being a therapist exhausting because you're trying to talk out everyone else's problems?
I know it sounds like it could be exhausting, but I actually don't think it's exhausting because I think it's more so like inspiring and motivating to hear how my clients have lived through all these problems and continuously like move forward. To me, it's really inspiring because I hear all these amazing stories and people trust me.
That's good.
Thank you for this.
Awesome. Back to kind of what you just mentioned about, because I've never heard anybody compare like domestic abuse as similar to like substance abuse and making excuses for oneself. And then particularly speaking with regards to taking care of someone, is there something you could say about people who feel like this huge obligation to take care of someone who they know doesn't want to take care of themselves, or like because a lot of times I feel like they're doing it not because they really feel like they want to take care of the person, but it sort of fulfills something that was missing or lacking in their life, and they feel responsible for it, even, right?
That's such a good point, bro. It makes me think about codependency, like completely. And I think that goes hand in hand with any kind of addiction, which is like you're codependent on whatever you're addicted to. And there's an amazing support group, actually. It's called, if anybody would like to go online, it's called CODA. So it's yes, codependency. CODA, and I think it should be confidential. It's a support group just like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, NA, stuff like that. But codependency truly is so common that no one really I think not no one talks about it, but not a lot of people talk about it, where you really, really realize that people in your life are so codependent on others. And I think it goes all the way back to like judgment towards yourself and feeling like you can't take care of yourself without needing to take care of another person, but you're not really taking care of them anymore. You're actually just making them and yourself more sick.
Oh, that's interesting. That caught my attention because I'm reading Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life.
Awesome.
And in one of the chapters, he talks about how some people won't actually take the medication that they need to take. But when it comes to like their pets being sick, they will like make sure that their medicine is given to them on time and the right amount. And they're super, picky about that. And yet for themselves, they feel like they're not worthy of that type of care.
For sure.
So
got a lot.
Unfortunately. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's see. Liza says, did you find your mental health changes from treating and helping people? Your mental health changes.
Like your experience.
My personal?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not so much. I just think that I've personally always been like a depressive person without expressing it, because I became so good at masking. I don't know if anybody knows really what that is, but it's very much like, I think most people are maskers without even realizing it in this society. Is like, you have to put on this face for other people to be okay around us, right? So like if we're Eeyore, right? I always think of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. He's a very depressive person. People are probably not going to want us around all the time. So for me, I was always anxious and depressed. And then until I started working with people, I realized I'm really the same as you. Like, we're really not that different. And as the only way that I could help you is if I'm constantly helping myself. So I find my mental health goes weak because I'm not taking care of myself, not because my clients are struggling.
And you know what? I find it interesting because you are open about the fact that you are dealing with your own issues, and I've said it plenty of times that it's like you can correct me if I'm wrong, okay? But that for me, it's much more. It's a lot more helpful to go to a therapist who maybe they themselves have gone through depression, because they can tap into what they're feeling, and they can relate to you a lot better than someone who has never dealt with any kind of trauma or anything like that, who may just turn to the book and say, you're showing symptoms of this, and then label you as such and then medicate you for that without actually fully. What do you think about that?
I personally think I agree with you, but then there are a lot of other people who don't agree, which to me that doesn't make sense because I think people forget that therapists are human beings. We're not robots that are like, how are you doing today? Because personally, I would struggle big time. And throughout my life, I've gone to therapy with my family. I've gone to personal therapy in high school. I've gone in college and grad school and after grad school. And I've had different therapists throughout that time. And I really, really, really did so much better with the therapists who are just open and honest and who said, look, I'm depressed too. I go to my therapist at this time, but right now we're working on you. And so that really helped me know that, wow, everybody's human.
Yeah.
It would be like if you want financial advice, you'd go to a financial advisor that has actually I'm saying, who's actually been broke before. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Let's see. David says on the abuse intervention side of the program I was involved with was modeled after AA, just the male side. The main point was trying to get men to realize personal responsibility and quit blaming. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. I think that is kind of it. I think pretty much the main point.
Right.
But a lot of people do struggle with AA. AA is more faith-based, so which is awesome. But some people just don't like that aspect of it. But I think that you can get good points through it. Sure.
Let me see.
Let's see.
There's one about boundary.
Let's see where.
It was a little up. I was trying to get to it.
Higher? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's some great comments, but thank you all so much for your questions. We'll take maybe another one or two, and then we'll call it a day. But thank you, Bianca, for all the great information. It's awesome. And then I completely forgot to take your contact info. But if after this you can email me how you would like to contact, if anybody has any questions, if you're open to that, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or if anybody would like to maybe talk to you a little bit further, maybe I can re-put them in the description below afterwards. So if you give me about an hour after, I can repost it and have your socials or whatnot.
Yeah.
Let's see. Constantly being told I'm nothing, a bad person, manipulative, etc., has made me believe it. That's a big one. That's a big one. It's funny because Erika and I were talking about this. For example, a person who they themselves feel small will have a tendency of making themselves feel bigger by breaking everybody else down, by telling another person, you are nothing, you'll never be anything. And even things like, especially like if they're religious, the person might say like, well, where's your God now? And as they're towering over you, being told consistently. So what advice would you give to a person who may be told that they're nothing, that they're a bad person, that they know in their heart that they're not, but to a certain degree, because of the repetitiveness, may start to believe that they are?
Yeah. And then again, it kind of goes back to boundaries to me, is that you want to be around this person or in a relationship with someone who constantly makes you feel bad, makes you feel like you're manipulative. And then if you find yourself feeling like you can't, and you do want to get out of it, but you can't get out of the relationship, then you might be maybe in like probably a toxic relationship, and there are resources out there that you can get help to get out of it. Because if you're constantly just engaging in like the same behaviors with that person, it's the same outcome is probably going to come. Sadly.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Liza says, how do you treat generational trauma? I'm not even sure I know what that is.
Yeah, generational trauma is basically in regards to, let's say, like your family system in like years ago, like your mom's mom, they had trauma and they weren't able to work on it. So then it probably will trickle off in a way down to the other generation. For me, I still work on this generational trauma. It takes time and effort. So it's not something that I don't think that you can go to therapy and work through in like 6 sessions, unfortunately. And that makes me think of like insurance companies will often offer, look, we have 6 free sessions for you, and then that's all we're going to offer you. Like, to me, that's criminal, because you're going through trauma. 6 sessions might help, right? It might help you get some foundational work done and whatnot, but generational trauma is going to take effort and time, and you'll probably get re-triggered over and over again. Yeah, one of my favorite things that was told to me during a training was that it was a supervisor, and she said, whenever I get triggered, I love it. And I was like, what are you talking about, you freaking freak? I was like, and she was like, being triggered means that I always have something that I can work towards. Like, something's in me that makes me get triggered, and it makes me human. And I was like, you're right. So I think that stems from generational trauma, is like, chances are you're probably going to get re-triggered while you're working through your trauma or whatnot. But over time, you'll realize that the triggers are not as bad. And then you'll go, wow, like I can talk about my family history or my family problems without freaking breaking down or stuff like that.
Yeah. For like, I kind of feel a little bit connected to this, because, like, for example, alcoholism was big with my father and his father, and also abuse of their spouses.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't grow up seeing it, because my mother fled from that, like, I didn't grow up seeing it from my father. I grew up seeing it from my stepfather, who was just equally, if not more, abusive. And one of the,
really fast, because I want to bring that up, is like the point.
Sure.
That's generational trauma, is that maybe your mom, she tried so hard to get away from that, but usually what happens is, without having the privilege of being able to work through it, you will find yourself a lot of times in a similar cycle, similar relationships. Sorry to cut you off, but keep going.
No, that's perfect. And so one of the things that helped me was to sit back. I can remember as young as I was like maybe 5, of watching my mother be so frustrated with work and frustrated with coming into a new country where she didn't speak the language. And I knew in my heart that she loved me. Like, I knew in my heart that she did, but the not knowing how to cope with that, not knowing how to deal with that, to the point where she would be angry at me and take it out, in physical abuse, like hitting me. Things like that, and yelling at me. And I could see, I've learned at a young age to sort of look at her facial expressions and be able to tell when she wasn't doing well. And it helped me to take a step back from the situation and understand that she's frustrated, that she didn't mean it, that I'm not to blame for whatever happened, with her. Things like that. It reminded me of like Jackie, who says, I wasn't able to mother my son properly and lovingly because I didn't know how. And I felt like my mom didn't know how either.
And I hope that maybe you, if there's any resentment towards your mom, and same thing with Jackie, I hope that you're not resenting yourself, is that's so common. Because I think about that and I'm like, we were not taught how to parent people. We were not taught how to parent ourselves. Right. And that terminology is kind of hard for people. Is like, wait a second, as we grow up, we have to learn how to love ourselves and re-parent ourselves, because some of us were not given the privilege to have like loving parents, right? So like we really have to learn, not that forgiveness has to happen, because people are allowed to not forgive people depending on the circumstances, but hopefully you can get to a point where you can go, wait a second, nobody was given like this script that said this is what a parent does. It's just like what we learn from our situations. And then I guarantee you, Leo, that now instead of hitting anything, you were like, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I and that's important, because I learned what not to do. I learned how to be a dad by the example of how not to be a dad. Like I knew, like when I grew up and I was going to be a father, I was going to treat my, first of all, I would never touch my children, right? And it's funny because sometimes I raise my voice at my eldest daughter, and then she's like in tears, right? And I'm like scolding her for something. And I said, love, like you have to realize, one, my mom's mom was harsh. You know, my mom's mom would smack her every chance she got. My mom, she smacked me, but she showed a little bit more love, I think, than she received, right? And now me, I knew what it felt like to be on the other end, on the receiving end of that belt. And I said, I'd never wanted my children to feel this way. So I'm going to find a better way of dealing with the things that I don't like. So now I at least raised my voice and I said, look, if you don't like how I deal with you, hopefully you'll break the chain even further. And when you have children, you'll learn a better way of educating them and a better way of scolding them than to raise your voice at them, because you don't like that, right? So little by little, it starts to wear out this generational trauma.
Yeah, and as long as you can recognize, wait, one, no matter how old you are, I hate that quote that goes, an old dog can't learn new tricks.
That old dog won't hunt.
But I think no matter how old you are, and no matter how maybe abusive your past was, you can learn and do different for like the next generation or yourself. Because not everybody wants to have kids.
Yeah, and plus you're not a dog, so
yes, you're not a dog. Right?
There's that. There's also that. Yes, so yeah, this is really great. Great. Thank you for all that information. I hope that we can that this was at least a pleasant experience for you, and that we can get you on here again, maybe on another topic. But I've loved this conversation so much, and I know that I see that some people have definitely learned a lot from you here on the live chat. I'm seeing some really great feedback. Someone, I think Linda was mentioning that her somebody my mill, I'm not sure, my mother-in-law maybe, was taken as a POW in Siberia when she was 16. All 5 children have mental issues. And she mentioned more things in the comment section. She never talked about it, but we know what the Russians did to young women, things like that. And so that's another, maybe that's for another day,
another topic.
Maybe that's for another day. Yeah, because I know that there are people who may have suffered through some kind of abuse, like sexual abuse, and didn't really care to mention it to anyone. Maybe they've held on to it, like here, what they don't know, and they unknowingly pass certain ideas to their children. I'm not sure. I'm treading lightly here because I'm not sure how it affects a person, and I don't want to end up triggering somebody in a bad way, but I want to maybe have a discussion about that sometime. But Lisa says, thank you for answering these questions. It's helping. I'm watching with my sister, and we're having a discussion about this. This is again Leo, bro, 100%. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for answering.
100%.
I'm the 100%. But thank you so much for sitting with us and having this conversation. Before we head out, I'm not sure what that is. Sorry.
I think it's fine. It's because I don't know how to turn off my mom is texting me. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No, it's okay. So before we leave, one more thing, because somebody I've seen, Kobe, I see you here. They wanted you to touch on ERP for anxiety. If you can touch a little bit about that to let us know what that is. And also if you would recommend Nathan Peterson on YouTube.
I've looked into Nathan Peterson, and if I'm talking about the right guy, he's really big on exposure and response therapy is ERP. Exposure response prevention And basically what it's really good gold standard treatment for OCD. So like, for instance, I totally engaged in ERP treatment for myself, and I recommend truly, if you have an anxiety or an OCD diagnosis, like in a disorder, you really feel like you could fit that, to find a certified ERP therapist, which is what I went through. And they really, really help you focus on the behaviors and the obsessions that you're doing. So exposure response, for example, let's say this would be something. I'm really obsessing over putting too much mascara on one eye versus on the other. So what they have me do is go outside with one eye off and one on. And so it's basically helping you tolerate the discomfort. Really, I think what people need to do with anxiety.
It's funny because, well, not funny enough that way, but a lot of the things that you're mentioning, because I used to practice yoga, and I've been telling Erika that we want to go back into it. I bought her a mat. It's coming next Wednesday, so she and I are going to start doing yoga. We're going to start yoga. But a lot of the things that you mentioned are some certain things that are practiced in yoga. For example, well, first of all, breathing. Breathing is big. The second thing is learning to be comfortable in very uncomfortable positions. Because sometimes you'll go into a position, your body is shaking, or you feel like you're not strong enough, and a part of you says, "Okay, that's enough. Quit. You can let go of this pose now." And another part of you is saying, "No, let's breathe through it. We're stronger than this. We're able to hold this for at least 2 more breaths," right? And what that helps you, I felt like it helped me in my everyday life, is it shows me that when I'm in an uncomfortable position, I can breathe through it. When someone is making me feel uncomfortable in person, I can breathe through it. When I'm in an uncomfortable position with my partner, or with my mom, or with specifically with like a cashier at Walmart in the city of Paris. I'm just kidding. Her name is, no, I'm kidding. That I'm able to practice that sort of that breathing and that patience to say that, it's okay. I'm gonna get through it. Do you?
Yes. Basically, with anxiety, our minds are telling us to like get through this rush.
Yeah.
So we start losing things. Like if you've ever found yourself rushing through the door to go to work, you forget your coffee, you forget your keys, you forget. So like literally tell yourself, dude, you're gonna be late anyways. Just laugh about it. Probably slow down.
You're already gonna be late.
You're gonna be late. Go stop at Starbucks. So slow down, because really anxiety is like the best coping to me for anxiety is non-judgment and being able to just practice your values. And that's that's what OCD treatment really helped me with, was really recognizing what I valued, putting them down, and then going, no matter what your brain is telling you, you know you're safe, and you know you have the resources for this stuff. So follow your values no matter what.
Seriously, that is really important. And I know this for sure. I felt a lot better a few years back before I started practicing yoga. I was the type of person, I could not leave my house without making sure that my shirt was ironed, that my hair was brushed neatly, right? And I looked at least somewhat presentable. And one day I said, you know what? Forget this. I grew out my beard. I grew out my hair. I started doing yoga. I was just like really just eating. I was eating better. I was sleeping better. But seriously, just like not judging myself was big, because then once I was ready and I combed it, I wasn't attached to that, to the way that I look. And as you can tell, I'm still not attached because. Yeah, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Every time her mom sees me, she goes, "Do you need a colita?" Like a little hair,
hair tie. You know my mom too.
You need a hair tie.
I think she used to tell me that too.
She probably has.
I definitely would relate to that. And when I was in, I think, middle school, it was usually everybody's time when they were trying to look cool was in middle school, right? So every day I would wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm straightening my hair to the point where it's literally falling off my head probably. I need to be straight. My hair, my makeup needs to be good, all this stuff. And now, like, I really, really challenge myself. This is my own OCD thing, is like, do things that are of your value while being super authentic. So this is why my hair is like this, because my hair, I don't want to do that 4 a.m. BS anymore.
Yeah, we practice that often too with Erika. Sometimes we're gonna go somewhere, and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to change my shoes," and I go in your Crocs, go, because they're like really bright pink. And she's like, "All right, I'm going," and we go. Who cares? Like, just do it.
I used to not be like that though. I used to always be like, "No, I have to. I don't know, look a certain way or."
Yeah.
And it was just all the overthinking up here in my head.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm being judged, but nobody was judging me. I was doing the judging. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There's a reaction video on here where I'm like, "All right, today I didn't brush my hair, so this is what you get." And then it became a thing. You're like, "I love your hair." Like Roxana says, "It's reckless love hair." So I'm like, "Okay, cool. They're okay with it. I'm okay with it. Let's go."
I love it too.
Me three.
Thanks. Great. Well, I really enjoyed this talk, familia. If you learned something great today, if you got something great out of this, if you could do me a huge favor, first, hit the like button. Second, share it with someone. I'm gonna try my best to pull some little clips here so you make it easier for you to share with people. And let us know in the comment section down below what was your biggest takeaway from this. Like, what did you learn today about yourself or about someone you love? You know, it could be pretty much anything. So if you can leave a comment, that would be wonderful. And then I will get the information from Bianca. I'm sorry that the information is not there currently, but there will be information in about an hour or so. I'll put all her socials in different ways that she can that you can reach out to her if you're interested in that. So yeah, it's we'll talk about there's this comment as well, things like this. Jenny, we love you, and I completely understand a lot of the teachings, that a lot of the things that we know about things that we don't understand are incorrect. Yoga is many things, and I know that a lot of people are scared into things like that because you hear people practicing things like Kundalini. I'm not interested in any of that, but really yoga, the word yoga means to unite or to bring together, and the purpose of that is to bring together your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health as well, and your physical well-being. And so you're practicing something physical while exercising to be comfortable in your mind, to learn to breathe, and to calm and control your emotions. Yoga is definitely not for everyone, because not everybody wants to twist themselves into a pretzel and feel like great and connect with you with God, if that's how you use it. Some people do, and it's okay if you believe this, but I would recommend that you look a little bit further into it, because it's definitely not what you are taught in some churches. Because most like I know for sure that a lot of pastors or preachers don't practice yoga, so it's hard to talk about something that you yourself don't practice, or that maybe you don't want to touch on because it's connected to some other form of religion, but like Hinduism, for example. And so it's sometimes they deter you from doing certain things because they thought music at some point was also a gateway to demonic stuff, and that's we all know that that's not true. Because anyway, so that's for another topic, but anyway, for another day. Thank you so much, Bianca, for joining us. Thank you for your time. I'm glad that you made the time to join us.
You're welcome.
Familia, please remember to continue to spread the love that comes from above, and we will see you on our next adventure. See ya.